Mr. Chairman, we're live.
Okay, well, let's call this joint interim discussion meeting of the committee together, the Joint Corporations Committee. Mr. Chairman, welcome, welcome all you guys. It's nice to be in your big room. You guys have good digs over here. Thanks a lot. The chairman and I have done a little discussing. You realize we have just a huge pack of topics, many of which are duplicative. We know that there are members of the public and agencies that have a need to address us. We're not going to be able to sort through everything at this meeting, and it's not even good that we would try. So I'm thinking that one way to proceed is to have as much public comment and input as we can get, and then have the members rate their topics. And let's think in terms of amalgamating issues if we can, because that's just better and gives us a little bit more freedom. And then the chairman and I would go through that. We haven't decided exactly how to do it, but you know, if everybody wants to do one topic, it rises to the top of the list, obviously we do that. It's sort of like ranked choice voting, but we won't say that when we go through these topics. If only one person has one on the top, that may not go, but that's where we're going to get to today. So with that, I think we should spend the time with public comment. Is that okay with everybody? Looking around the room, Mr. Co-Chairman? So who would like to address the committee on proposed interim topics? And I beg you, we've only got an hour because the Senate goes in at 12:30. We're trying to work your bills, Mr. Chairman. And so who would like to address the committee on proposed interim topics in the room? Please don't. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yes, okay, come on, let's fill out the chairs. Representative Williams, welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for your limited time. On the issue of constitutional apportionment, that you've all heard the two bills that were before both of your committees during this session.
Say it again from the beginning because you didn't have the mic on. My fault. I don't think you did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe, what happened was that the staff turned it up. You were online. So you're fine. Go ahead.
You are aware of that for the last 30 years, we do not follow our state constitution due to that little footnote in Article 3, Section 3, and thus this conversation that we are interested in having. And in the interest of time, I'd entertain any questions. If you'd like me to flesh this issue out more, I'd be happy to, but I believe we've all had this conversation before.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Representative Williams? Any questions? Where's that bill? No, I meant where is the bill that we came through committee? Is it on general file?
General file today.
Okay, we'll see what happens there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
To our clerks, Ms. Langford.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Mary Langford, and I have the honor of representing the Wyoming County Clerks Association. And with me today at my right is the Honorable Malcolm Irvin, who is the president of the Clerks Association as well as the Platte County Clerk. And he is going to present our topic, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Irwin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Malcolm Irvin, Platte County Clerk. We submitted 4 items, all election related. You may be familiar with that topic. I think we've covered it once or twice this session. And so, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to continue that work into the interim, looking to gauge your interest. We have 4 of them. Number 1 was election equipment testing and auditing procedures. We think that testing and auditing of the systems is the backbone that really needs to be continued to strengthen. Number 2, absentee ballot security and issuance, chain of custody. There were some interesting bills this session, but also some practices we think could be codified. Number 3, election security to include polling locations, election officials, et cetera. It was very disturbing last year to see a threat made to the chief election officer of the state. And so we believe that that really needs to be taken seriously by the state of Wyoming. it will come down to our level. And so, Mr. Chairman, we just think that that's an important matter, needs to be addressed. Number 4, voter registration list maintenance and further WildReg capabilities in data. Mr. Chairman, that's a similar topic to one that the Secretary proposed as well. And so we really think that's a good topic to cover. Mr. Chairman, any questions? We'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Anybody? Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome. And we have more chairs here for people to fill out. Got a green light? There's a little thing in the front.
Okay,
So got a green light?
okay, this is my first time live before you folks.
Oh, very much welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Janet Mader, Campbell County. I have been a long time an elections judge. I've also done a lot of, spent quite a few times with the logic and accuracy testing. And I am also with the Campbell County Republican Party and the state party. So I appreciated what the Clerks Association is looking at because those are also my topics. The one that I want to emphasize for myself right now is House Bill 278, Elections Voting Machine and Voting System Tests. So on your page 2, line 12, it has members of the public, and there's another spot in there, it's 2 spots, it has members of the public. That concerns me because the way that is written, anybody around the world, anybody from any other state, anybody from any other county can randomly show up for that county's logic and accuracy testing. I think it needs to be authorized. People may observe. I think they need to be registered voters who are residing in the county. And they need to be observers only, not trying to affect what the clerk is doing. And also, observers, and then maybe add something like a volunteer type thing, because I've done the logic and accuracy testing for many years. At times, I was the only one. And then because of life and what's happening, it became a point of interest for everybody. And then everybody shows up from around other states and other counties, and maybe separate to observers only, and that's all they do. And then maybe should add a volunteer option so people like myself can help the clerks start feeding those ballots through the
Maybe,
tabulars.
Ms. Mader, it might be useful if you just kind of grouped it in a broader category.
Okay.
Like election machine testing.
Okay.
And then if we take that topic up, which I think we're going to have election topics,
Right. I think
it'd be
you
better
should-
than going through everything right now,
Right.
because
But just add-
we've got less than an hour now.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you,
You bet.
Chairman Case. This is my first time, so just
Mine too.
keep especially in this big public format. So that's the one I'm seriously interested in, and also the other topics that the clerks brought up, and hand counting of ballots is also a concern for me too. So those, we're going together right now, and I'll give somebody else some time.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Mader. Any
Thank you.
questions for Ms. Mader? Thank you. Who's next? Yes, sir. We'll go to you.
Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Christopher Volsky. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Wyoming Community Development Authority, commonly referred to as the WCDA out of Casper, even though we serve statewide. I'm here today to put on the radar the topic of housing, a topic that we're all familiar with, a topic that continues to plague our state. This was a topic that was on the interim last time. Unfortunately, a lot of the work that was done by the committee last year didn't get discussed, but I realized it was a robust session with probably more bills than we had time. So definitely a conversation we would like to see continued into the next interim topic list. While we're all in here talking about housing, it has real world impacts out there. You know, we have median households. The median household income cannot afford the median priced house in the state right now. So we have an inventory issue that's out of balance. Housing is a complex thing. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. And because of that, it deserves a big stage. And the interim topic allows us to get questions from the committee here. We can deep dive into testimony. We can get public input. And I think it's the perfect place to really formulate what potential legislation needs to look like so we can bring a well-formed and put together bill to the General Assembly. So I would appreciate if housing being a topic, topic we specifically put in was housing inventory, but that's a topic, and there's a lot of tools that can be underneath that can be used to solve for that. So if you have any questions, I would take them at this time. Otherwise, I'd kind of end with, we all say the world needs more cowboys. I would say we can amend that to say the world needs more housing for our cowboys and our cowgirls. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And its last name is Volsky?
Volsky. Yep.
Volsky.
Volsky. Yep.
Volsky. Thank
VOLZKE.
you.
Yep.
Questions for Mr. Volsky? Questions for Mr. Volsky? Thank you, sir. To you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Co-Chairman, members of the committee. Dan Dorsch, representing the Southeast Wyoming Builders Association. Also here to support for housing as an interim topic. I agree with everything Mr. Volsky said and won't take up a lot of your time, but there were 6 related housing bills specifically related to supply or close to helping with housing supply. Those are House Bill 66, 67, 68, House Bill 88, and then Senate File 40. Of those, only one has had robust discussion this session, so hopefully we can continue the conversation for the reasons Mr. Volsky stated, that we need housing in our state. Thank you for your time and allowing for me to speak to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsch. Questions for Mr. Dorsch? We're good. Hello.
Hello, Mr.
Ms.
Chairman,
Hartstreet.
members of the committee, Ashley Hartstreet, Wyoming Association of Municipalities. We stand in support of trying to discuss the housing shortage and needs, and are here to be of assistance in that infrastructure development, looking at permitting, how can we be more business friendly so we can get inventory moving. There was a House Bill 202 that Representative Filer brought that we were really working hard to come to an agreement where we could make that go through, but it failed in Senate Minerals. And so we'd be interested in visiting about that again. We did bring that topic to Senate Minerals. Like my colleague said, there's a lot of bills out there that I think are worth relooking at. Also with infrastructure development and utilities and sewer and water, how do we be good partners? How do we leverage our reserves better to pay for these long-term infrastructure needs with the community development? So there's a lot of different ways we could tie in.
So Ms. Hartstreet, you mentioned that you also suggested a review of House Bill 202 to the Minerals Committee, right?
Yes, sir.
So we'll keep track of that, and if you would help us, because if they take it up, we don't need to take it up. Any questions for Ms. Hartstreet? Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Brett Kaler with Wyoming Economic Development Association, just echoing the need to discuss workforce housing specifically, but housing in general, and policy and statute that empowers our local communities to address the issue that the majority of the state is facing when it comes to housing.
Great.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Keller. Next group. And I'll tell you what, when you get done, just get out and somebody else will get your chair. I mean, I don't mean it quite that bad, but it's kind of like that. Mr.
Well,
Secretary, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first, I want to thank the House, the Senate side, both sides, and both houses for their tremendous work on bills in this session. I know there were a lot of them, and I just really appreciate you hanging in there and doing so much work on them. It means a great deal to me because this is a huge part of our work in the Wyoming Secretary of State's office, and we're very passionate about it. And I'm very thankful. I want to talk about some of our proposed interim topics. First, voter list maintenance updates. Voter list hygiene, 318 is a wonderful bill. Very excited about it moving forward last night. But it's always, it's like brushing teeth. There's always, you got to keep doing it. And that's why we call it voter list hygiene. And so there's always new things happening. And as 318 is implemented further, I want to continue to update the committee and have the opportunity if there is some new innovation. SAVE Act, we're very excited. I sent a joint letter with other Republican secretaries of state to Secretary Noem about the SAVE system, improvements that we've sort of identified in that, and working with the Trump administration and continuing to improve SAVE and our voter list maintenance processes. So that's one. Also, implementation and updates on bills that passed. I want to make sure that we can update the committee with the clerks and with all interested parties on the bills that passed, and maybe some things around the edges that maybe we think let's maybe work a little bit more on. but also I think they're all clean. So I'm not saying that's going to be part of it, but mainly updating you on the implementation because it's going to be a big part of our 25 year is implementing what has passed here, and we're very excited about it. Next one is retention of ballots. This has been a little bit of an issue. Right now, the retention of ballots is in 9-2-411, and it basically gives, it's kind of interesting, this committee sort of authority to set a retention schedule for all sorts of state government records. And ballots is one of them. And it's 22 months at the state level and then 24 at the federal, which is kind of interesting. And there's, 22 at the federal and then 24 at the state. I think we need to get this into the election code. Election ballot retention. I don't think we should roll into sort of this committee and solely. I think we should get that into the election code. And then I had a double submission on this. And look, I'm very excited. I know there's still a lot of bills on general file. Very excited about the committee's work and those hopefully getting heard today. But the bills that were not successful, I just hope that we can have another go with them. And it's not just bills that made it through the process. There were some that weren't referred even. I mean, there was one that was referred but did not get heard in committee. It was not heard on general file. Was Representative Locke's election machine testing bill, I believe House Bill 278, made it out of House Corps. It was a very well vetted bill, and it's very important we get this done. Understand there were time issues, and I think the clerks and I mean, it's awesome how much alignment there is. They've got voter list maintenance and then also this issue. I don't think we're out of time to do it for 26. I hope heads are nodding back there. I hope so because I think it's on the list. So I think everyone's in agreement. We can still get this done for 26. The statute needs clarity. It has places where it's unclear, and there are areas where I think we can do a little more on the rigor end as well. So it's clarity and then also a little more on the rigor end. But there is quite a bit of disagreement between relevant parties on what the testing statute actually means. And that's one of the big things we want to clear up. There was another one on absentee voter ID, absentee balloting voter ID. Few states have, and it's not an individual making a facsimile of their voter ID. It's them sort of using their driver's license number on the envelope, the inner envelope, and that's how many states, or their SSN number, that's how many states have done absentee voter ID. And it does work. I think we're up to 3 or 4, and that bill was not referred. And I understand there wasn't time, but that's one we're very excited about. The hand counting, I think it's something, you see it in the packets. There's a lot of interest in it. There were a lot of bills. There was Representative Lucas's House Bill 217, which was choosing a random precinct to audit. That one there's a lot of excitement about. And that one did not quite make it out of the committee that it was referred to. And then obviously the really great dialogue the committee had with the public on House Bill 218, the voter machine bill. And I think it's very important we continue to look at this issue because there is a lot of concern on it. One other thing that maybe didn't quite make it in there, I hope that doesn't totally disqualify it. Authentication of IDs, interested in that issue. Potentially putting into statute, authenticating IDs that can be authenticated. For example, our license. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this probably on the back of our ID. You put a flashlight on it and there's some fireworks, and that's what authenticates the ID. And so there's some IDs that can be authenticated, some that can't. Should we talk about authentication of IDs in the code for purposes of voter ID specifically is something, it is challenging, but I think it's something we could also roll into that. But I think I'm pretty much, thank you.
Mr. Secretary, I do want to say it's been a pleasure working with you,
Yes.
you and your staff. I know I speak for the committee on the Senate side, and I know the same for the House. So, you're a good man to work with, and well, I think we have maybe some questions for the Secretary. Yes, Representative Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, quick question. What is the rigor end?
Mr. Secretary?
Well, Mr. Chairman, what I was trying to bring across there is there are parts of the code on testing that are just unclear, and that's a big problem. And then there are parts where we want to get it a little bit beefed up. And frankly, the statute, in my opinion, isn't quite there in terms of, being clear that every machine should be tested, not just every type of machine, for example. That's actually an area where there lacks clarity, but also it kind of merges sometimes, rigor versus clarity, and oftentimes they're merging together. So that's what I meant by that. One other thing, Mr. Chairman, thank
Go
you,
ahead.
if it's okay. I would like if we maybe had attacking business fraud as a placeholder. I think we did a lot of great work on it, but we need to continue to work on that. It's a huge priority for our administration, and we're still brainstorming up there, more we can do.
Was that submitted?
It was not. I didn't quite roll it in.
It might be useful to park that. as
Okay.
a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Secretary? Thank you both.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Let's fill out the chairs. Mr. Smolinski, welcome. Good to see you.
Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Got more
as well.
chairs, you guys, you can fill them out.
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, Nate Smolinski, I'm with statewide 911 coordinator, as well as the statewide interoperable coordinator, and the chief technology officer for WYDOT. So, Mr. Chairman, I think what I would just really briefly want to discuss is the 911 funding and next generation 911 migration for the state of Wyoming. Just kind of as a reminder for this committee, we started this work with Senate File 57 during the interim, and really it's our desire to continue where we left off and kind of keep pushing forward. And I'll just point out a couple key things that we picked up through the committee work that I think would be beneficial, and that's going to be review and education of the 911 systems and operations with a focus on efficiencies that we can try to offer for the state of Wyoming. This is a quick reminder, when we talk about efficiencies, we have regionalization and consolidation. I won't get into them right now. I think we can save that for later on, but they're very two distinct, different types of way that we look at efficiencies. We're also going to take a look at the options for establishing NG 911 in Wyoming, including the transitional efficiencies. What do we have today that we can kind of carry over and work with? Funding is going to be a big item as well. We want to explore different funding mechanisms that possibly could be available. We just don't want to kind of hone in on one solution. We think this could be a hybrid, and we want to make sure that we're looking at all options on the table. It'd be our desire to work with our partners, with WOS, WASCOP, WCCA, WHAM, as well as industry, to come back and present options to this committee. We could then go through them, allow you folks to decide what some of the best paths to move forward on. Mr. Chairman, I think with that, I'll stand for any questions unless Chief of Police Torrington, Matt Johnson here might be able to chime something.
You want to tag on, Chief Johnson, and then we'll have questions for both. Go ahead. Get that green light going.
I failed to be green.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Matt Johnson. I have the pleasure of serving as the Chief of Police in Torrington. We manage the public safety answering point for all of Goshen County. That's roughly 4 law enforcement agencies, about 9 different volunteer fire departments, 4 EMS, and a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with that. Tremendous amount of expense and technical proficiency that's required to keep that operational. And we're just really looking forward to having a conversation about finding funding and structural options that will allow that to be feasible for our organization and for other organizations across the state.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Johnson. Any questions for either one of the gentlemen? Any question? Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for testifying. I have my question is, when was the last time that there was a big overhaul with 911?
Mr. Chairman?
And the
Mr.
amount,
Mr.
please.
Smolinski, we'll go to you, and I didn't mean to cut you off on the back. Okay, we're good.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr.
Smolinski.
Chairman, Representative Weber, the current fee structure for funding right now was established in I believe it's 88, and we're sitting at 75 cents per line. The last overhaul that took place, each one of the PSAPs across the county are in different degrees of modernization as we speak. Some of them are probably a little bit closer to getting to what we call NG 911, where other ones are probably still operating with technology going back to 1988.
Mr. Smolinski, I might have misunderstood you, but I don't think it's been 75 cents since 1988. Is that your testimony? I think I remember increasing it from 50 to 75.
Mr. Chairman, in 1988, if I believe I may have the number off by a tad, but The
Okay.
ceiling was raised to 75 cents around 1988. Now, not all counties adopted going to 75
Could be.
cents.
Yeah.
The last county that moved over to 75 cents, if I have my memory correctly, was back in 2022.
I wasn't here in 1988, but Senator Scott was.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't here either, so.
Mr. Smolenski, if you review the Public Service Commission confirmation hearing the corporations had for Commissioner Petrie this morning, we had some discussion about 911 service on the reservation and the service outage that continues there in my district and very much concerns me. I hope maybe I could keep getting updates from you on that.
Mr. Chairman, we will continue to work with the provider. We have asked questions and have not received the data, but I will assure you we'll keep the pressure on.
Yeah, it came up in that hearing. Thank you, sir. Let's go to you, sir. Welcome, Commissioner.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
wait, you're not a commissioner, right? You're with the organization.
That's correct, yeah. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jonathan Russell, I'm a policy analyst for the County Commissioners Association, and here to voice our support for the continued discussion of this topic. It's important. We've been a part of this conversation, and we want to continue as there's going to be some important topics that will continue to be discussed.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Russell? Thank you very much. Representative Brady, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Marlene Brady and members, I'm here to support, ask that you consider HB 0332, government membership and cooperation with associations. We were going to be heard, but we ran out of time in the corporation, so I appreciated that too. I'll just give you some highlights what the bill will do. This bill will remove the taxpayer from paying for county association dues and travel expenses. There's been an uptick in overreach and use of some of these associations, and we're seeing them show up on our counties as policies. This will stop the excessive government spending in a small way by not paying for the association fees and travel with taxpayer money. This bill states that any county official acting in official capacity of the county to keep an accounting of time, nature of association activity, and will document weekly. This bill states that weekly documentation association activities will be submitted monthly to the commissioners to be kept for public record access.
If you could maybe be a little bit more general, I think we are,
Okay, so.
just a bigger picture.
A larger picture is, by the way, and my bill deals with strictly county level, but we want to include all municipalities and state, and it's gonna, in the millions that the public is paying for association fees. And are we rightly being represented?
Thank you.
And other states as well have also filed. So,
Anything else?
no, any questions for me?
Okay, questions for Representative Brady? Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jason Hendricks with Range Broadband Provider. I have a topic that's on page 30 of your packet. It's dealing with railroad rights-of-way permits, specifically for projects that have to cross railroad crossings, railroad tracks. A lot of high fees, a lot of delays that we're experiencing as broadband companies. And I understand other industries may be experiencing the same thing too. So that's what this topic would address, is to look at what other states are doing in this regard, see what may be needed for cost recovery for the railroads, but try to have some kind of reasonableness to that cost recovery and some information about delays. There are at least 5 states that have already addressed this, and if I can mention the states' names.
Sure, you can do it in committee if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Illinois. And if you look at the fees that we typically pay to do similar kind of crossings, they're anywhere from 5 to 20 times higher than what the fees are set for in those states. But we recently had one, and I think it's because of a change in policy, that would be between 100 and 200 times what those fees are set for in other states. And I think that the change in the policy is an expectation to charge on value rather than what the cost is that they would incur for us to cross. So would respectfully ask that you take this topic up and look at this in the interim.
Any questions for Mr. Hendricks? Any questions? Go ahead, Senator Bonner.
Actually, I don't have a question. I have to leave in a little bit. I just wanted to present a topic, if that's okay, when I have a chance, Mr. Chairman.
Why don't we do that? We'll take Senator Bonner. Is that okay with you guys? And if anybody has the same situation, holler. We'll stay at the table. We're just going to hear from Senator Bonner next. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Just like to make the committees aware of regulatory sandbox and/or freedom cities as a topic. This is something that's being discussed a little bit at the federal level, sort of the idea of deregulating in certain areas, either geographically or by topic, and it's something that we've done. We did a lot of work about 5 years ago with sandboxes for things like medical innovation, financial technology, vertical airlift, those sorts of things, drone technology. And so it's something I think is going to gain traction. I'd love Wyoming to be in a strong position to attract some innovative industries. Just like to highlight that one. And there is a bill that Representative Andrew and I had worked on previously that would establish a more general regulatory sandbox process that's not limited to a specific area or industry, but sets up a process to waive rules and regulations and under certain constraints to test out innovative technologies. So that's the idea there.
Thank you. Questions for Senator Bonner? Any questions? Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Senator Steinmetz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in the same boat. I now need to go to a bill signing after being late.
Go ahead.
because
Keep-
of my.
let's-
So, but I
as
don't
fast
have
you
an
can.
interim topic, so I'll get you my list later on.
Okay, it'd be nice if you shared it with the entire committee. Oh, you mean you're talking about the
The
associate?
ranking,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
fine,
I
fair
don't
enough.
have.
I thought it was a new topic. I
No,
apologize.
it is not a new topic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks, in those states that are regulating the fees that you were talking about, what agency does that? Is it like the Public Service Commission, or how does that accomplish, real quick, if you can?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that I could
No problem.
talk about that at this point. Yeah.
Okay, we'll maybe find out. All right, who's going to start? Very colorful, the three of you are.
Why, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Ms. Herman.
Marguerite Herman, League of Wind Voters. I'm going first because mine is actually very simple. And just a comment that throughout the session, a lot of election bills, and one topic that came up over and over again was voter confidence. Confidence in the conduct of the election and that their ballots were being counted and appropriately. So what I'm suggest is looking at a system for ballot tracking and curing that 47 other states have. And the tracking is a matter of a code put on an envelope. This is for mail-in ballots. And that, when you order something online, they'll tell you, well, it just left the warehouse. Well, it's at Kansas City now, et cetera. And so it would provide that tracking ability for the voter to be able to watch their ballot move through the system, if end up and delivered, they get notified when it was delivered. If it, after 2 or 3 weeks is not being delivered, could check up on it. So I think it would enhance voter confidence that their ballots were making their way to the county clerks and being counted. The curing part of that is that if mail-in ballots get to the destination and that there is usually a signature missing or the signatures don't match, that's usually the problem where it hang up with those. And it was provide a system for the clerks to notify the voter and say, there's a problem, could you come in and cure it? And other states have systems. I think it would be a relatively simple matter to look at what other states are doing, what might work here, check with the clerks, the practicality of it and that sort of thing. And then because I think it's one of the few things that we could do that would actually directly address voter confidence.
Thank you, Ms. Herman. Questions for Ms. Herman? Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Simmons.
Gail Simmons, first, I want to reiterate on the need for housing. Just whatever you can do to take a look at that and identify where the problems are, what's getting in the way, what's preventing us. That's been the #1 issue for the state, even more than some of the other things I identified. Under election integrity, I heard use of electronic machines and testing. I would urge you, if you bring that in, to make sure that you are arranging for a demonstration so that here's what actually happens instead of hearing the anecdote, speculation, and rumors. And speaking of that, As you're looking at voter or election integrity or this broad area, is to ensure that these are data and fact-based and not, as I said, anecdote, speculation, and rumors, because I think that will go a long ways towards building voter confidence. It would be nice if, as a part of this, something came out that wasn't about restricting or preventing or eliminating, but something positive on how do we get more people involved. It would be nice to have that switch to a positive approach on elections, and that's it.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Simmons? Thank you very much. Ms. Carpio?
Thank you, Chairman, Mr. Chairman. Gail ended it on the perfect note for me to kind of segue into my topic, which is thinking of ways we can make registration secure, accessible, and how we can get our numbers up from only 50% of voter eligible people in the state to be registered. So we're around 50% right now, and we thought of two ways. The first is automatic voter registration. So with these changes in the documents that you need for registration, they kind of go along the same lines as what you need for a driver's license. So at YDOT, this would allow you to register to vote. It doesn't mean you automatically have to, even though that's kind of in the name that they use. You can also opt out of automatically registering to vote. About half states use AVR. And we are, of course, not one of them. And then the other would be online registration. And maybe the conversation doesn't end up being allowing people to register online, but just to check their registration online. I think that's really important. 42 states use some form of online registration. We heard a lot of confusion about after purging, who's registered and what does it mean and how do I vote? And I think these two may pave a solution for us. So thank you. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Carpio? So the checking online would allow any voter to look online to see if they're currently registered or not, to find out if they've been purged, and because sometimes people don't know. Interesting. Thank you. All right. Ms. Levin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jody Levin here on behalf of BNSF. In a bit of an awkward situation, I'll just start with that, Mr. Chairman. I'm referencing the interim topic that was just discussed by Mr. Hendricks at the bottom of page 30.
Let me think, maybe your company is involved with Mr. There you go. Keep going.
Mr. Chairman, I've lobbied for a very long time, and I've represented a number of different entities that would find themselves in a situation of having to cross a railroad. This is the first time that I've ever been made aware of a situation where there's been private negotiations, this is between two parties, that have resulted in an interim topic. I think what is strange about this situation, and again, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware that the legislature can choose to study anything it desires, but we haven't even negotiated in this instance. So this issue came to my attention about 10 days ago. Therefore, it came to the attention of my client 10 days ago. My client did offer to enter into negotiations to try to find a solution, and I'm seeing an interim topic for the first time. I was made aware by Mr. Hendricks that he was going to ask for an interim topic, and I think it's unfortunate that we're here today.
Thank you, Ms. Levin. Questions for Ms. Levin? Any questions? Ms. Levin, people get asked for anything they want. I mean, it's okay.
I know,
it's part of the
Mr.
process. It does strike me that if I'm trying to cross a railroad with a public utility line, in a lot of instances, you'd have eminent domain on your side. And then, but in some cases, with respect to telecommunications facilities, now there's not an eminent domain ability. So it's worth looking at. We're not mad at your client. We love them. So thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I hear I live close to them and they come through every night. It's great. Tell them hi. Thank you, Ms. Levin. Mr. Krieger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rob Krieger. I serve as the Executive Director of the Wyoming Energy Authority. Bottom of page 26, a comprehensive look. I know, Mr. Chairman, your favorite topic, electricity challenges. Part of you might be wondering why the Energy Authority put this forward. We've grown. I know y'all that were here when we were first stood up back in 2020. It was a merging of a few state entities, and really the mission was to be equivalent to a state's Department of Energy. Part of our statutory role is to look at ways to diversify and expand the Wyoming energy economy through investments in our state's electric and energy transmission systems. And working with folks from industry as well as some of our utilities and the PSC, these are obviously problems that are very detailed and very difficult. One beauty about us, about the Energy Authority, is we do not regulate or permit. So I think we could provide a great vehicle for these discussions to take place throughout the interim, and then bring them to you all as the committee with possible frameworks or recommendations on how to address specifically large load, third-party generation, and certificated territory integrity. I know there's rules pending in different levels at the PSC or the governor's office. There's public comment to those. If we could provide as the WEA maybe some consensus that we've built in responding to those as well, I think it would be beneficial for the long-term energy role in this state and some of our businesses that are looking to expand or new ones that are wanting to come here. So we just ask that you all take that up in the interim.
Thank you, Mr. Krieger. Questions for Mr. Krieger? Thank you. Commissioner Chairman Thron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Just tagging along with Mr. Krieger. However, the emphasis in our topic on page 27 is primarily on the issue of large loads. We do have rules pending on third-party generation and certificated territory, but certainly happy to discuss those issues with the commission as well. And as you know, in the electricity world, Senate, now I can't even say Mr. Chairman, Chairman Case, everything's interrelated. We'd also like to keep affordability on the list.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Any questions for the Madam Chairman? Thank you very much. Ms. Delancey, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Cindy Delancey. I'm here on behalf of my clients, the Wyoming Industrial Energy Consumers. They were in town for their meeting the past few days. Thank you so much for those of you that came by and kind of heard what's on their mind. And I'm sure, as a lot of you heard, they need more power. And, you know, we're hearing these conversations even at the highest level. If you've been watching the news, as President Trump assembles his cabinet, that was pretty much the #1 priority for the discussion amongst the cabinet. So I'm just here to echo my support for this topic. My clients are deeply supportive of this. We very much appreciate the work of the commission, bringing the Energy Authority in again, kind of as you know, an augmentation to the discussion. I think makes a lot of sense. And however we can contribute to kind of come to Wyoming solutions that can help us all, because truly at the end of the day, you know, it's a rising tide that will lift all boats. And the state that figures out and cracks the code on this power, you know, conversation is the one that's going to have economic prosperity. So we want to be on the winning team with all of you. So thank you for Mr. Chairman for that.
Thank you, Ms. Delancey. Questions for Ms. Delancey? Thank you. Mr. Taylor, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean Taylor, Executive Director of the Wyoming Rural Electric Association, and we want to provide all that power to Ms. Delancey's clients. Well, very much in favor of the proposed topic from the Energy Authority. We've had some conversations about that and the importance of them. And that takes one of my topics off your list. That's
a good thing.
Certificated service territory. There is one other topic that I'd like to bring to your attention. That's on page 31. And it's having to do with prescriptive easements. In the Senate, you'll remember we met to discuss this topic. We thought we had all our bases covered, but we didn't quite have all our bases covered. And so we decided, in conjunction with you, Mr. Chairman, to make this an interim topic, or propose it as an interim topic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Questions for Ms. Taylor? Thank you very much.
Here's my other friend.
Mr. Obermueller, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Pete Obermueller, President of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming, just adding my voice of support on this particular topic. The issue of my friendship with Mr. Taylor has survived 4 years of the certificated territory. I don't know if it'll survive 5. So let's I really want to try to figure this out so that we can set it aside for the benefit of everyone.
And you're supportive of the general efforts?
The general, yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Wow, Mr. Treasurer, welcome. Any questions for Mr. Obermueller? I didn't mean to cut him off. Thank you, sir. Mr. Treasurer, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, it's great to be here.
A former member of this committee, you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, Kale and I did a lot of great work together when we were in our younger years, you know.
We
I'm
thought it
sure
was
he's
great.
still doing it. I know you had affordable housing on there, so I wanted to give you just kind of an update of what we're doing in my office in relationship to the WCDA. And WCDA has a great report that you guys should be able to get your hands on as far as what they think the need for housing is going to be in the future. I don't know if you've already seen it. From what I recall, the last time I heard it was that in the next 10 years or so, we're going to need probably about $6 billion, $46 billion worth of actual houses built. That does not include infrastructure to them, you know. And I always want to try to be creative, so I knew that our GDP has gone down about $10 billion from 58 to under 50. That data is about 2 years old, so I'm sure it's updated. Maybe it's better than that. But I knew that we didn't have maybe the internal capacity to build those houses. So what do? You try to look for other people's money. And I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with something that's called an opportunity zone program that the federal government has. Basically, it defers taxes. And how this works today is that if you make an investment, and let's say you made $1 million on a project and you had 21% of it was capital gains, if you put that $1 million back into play for 10 years, you walk away with the whole million and you basically pay no taxes.
Okay.
So it's a great tax shelter. Over the course of the last Trump taxes, I think there's been just short of $60 billion that has been put into play.
Mr. Treasurer, did you write something up on this?
I've actually got something that I'm working with Senator Lummis and Senator Tim Scott.
We're so
actually
short on
did
time.
that. All
The
right.
Senate goes
And
back in
I'll-
8
I'll
minutes.
get that to you. Essentially,
Okay.
it involves the WCDA. It lets the builders determine where the houses are going to be built.
Maybe we could group that in with the housing topic.
Yeah, sure.
Questions
And
for the
I'll-
treasurer?
I'll get that to you.
Would you look online and see if there's a Mr. Sandy Reese? Because there is a topic that hasn't been touched on yet, you guys, which is public records and public charging for public records and public meetings. And I think it'd be good to hear about that topic, unless somebody in the room could fill us in on that topic. But I know we've heard from the Press Association. Maybe you could let him in. Mr. McKay, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for having me. Randy McKay, President of the Wyoming Business Alliance. We represent businesses of all sizes, from all industries in all corners of the state, and workforce and a lack of ability to attract talent is the biggest issue that my members are facing. And one core component of that is housing. So I really am appreciative that you're looking at that, because you know what we know in Wyoming is that we are overregulated in the housing space. And so there's a lot to do. The Montana developed that menu option. And I think that there are some great things to do to help incentivize and make communities and help them be more competitive to try to attract housing developers to deal with this issue. So I really do hope you'll look at that and consider, a lot of these states are looking at these menu options with municipalities to help them be more competitive in that space. And so interested in if you look at that, and then right behind that issue is.
Because other people have talked about housing already, and you're kind of me tooing. What else do you have, Mr. McKay?
I will just me too energy, because we have situations where there are challenges with a lack of availability for power to even build houses, let alone to fuel businesses. So thank you for looking at those things.
Thank you. Mr. Co-Chairman, I see you got a question.
Your housing, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your housing mostly dealt with and the regulatory aspect.
Mr. Chairman, that I would propose that you look at that, especially out of some of the things that have happened with these menu options.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. McKay? Thank you, Mr. McKay. Is Mr. Russ available?
Mr. Chairman, yes, he has. He is. I've admitted him as a panelist.
Mr. Russ, can you tell us about public records? Very short, we've only got a couple minutes. Mr. Russ? Anybody else in the room want to address while we're trying to get him on? Is there anybody else in the address?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please,
Oh,
Mr.
right. Thanks for listening. Regardless of anyone's political persuasion, I think we all agree that town council, county commission, elected boards such as the hospital and school board, appointed boards like library and airport should be doing the public's business in the public. Unfortunately, too many of those that I mentioned are intentionally disregarding the law, and others are disregarding it simply because they're not informed. From my perspective, the problems lie in the fact that our public meeting and public records acts have bones but no meat. If one compares the substance of our law, the length, how many pages it takes up, with those of Texas, California, Michigan, Florida, or almost any other state, our statutes they're too short. They don't tell exactly what we need to do. And I am proposing that we augment our laws in large part by simply looking at what Texas has done. And I think we will find that we are in line with what they're doing and adopt what they have done. In conclusion, I'm happy to work with staff, committee, or anyone else. I've spent a lot of time on this issue, and any way that I can help, I'd be happy to do so. And thank you for listening.
And thank you very much. And for everybody, this is Sandy Russ from Jackson. I spelled R-E-S-S, and he's been in contact with me for quite a while on this issue. There were others that made the same pitch about public records from the Press Association, et cetera. Anybody else online? We got time for one. What we could do, the Senate goes back in, we're working House bills. What time do you go in? You know, I think it would be good to get the public testimony even if the senators aren't here. And I would turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and we're going to go back up and work on your bills. And I leave it in your capable hands.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you, senators, for attending, and I know you got to get back on the floor, so
I'll click the Senate ones and we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue on with public testimony. Those who want to come up and fill the seats will continue on.
I think I got more online, I'm not sure.
All right. Matt, do we have additional people online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've admitted Sarah Squires.
All right. Ms. Squires, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
We lost you. Did you accidentally mute? All right, we'll try to get her back. Is there anybody else in the room that has testimony?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think we're connected now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Knapp and members of the committee. I had sent you a letter and some documentation regarding fees for data, which currently do not have a lot of reins in place that would limit the ability for outrageous charges to be levied. And we hope that that might be something that would be less complicated to take a look at. I've sent over a comparison of how the rest of the 50 states handle fees for public records. And I'm very hopeful that that's something that you all could take a look at. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Elena Campbell. I'll admit her now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, Helena from Sheridan, very briefly concur with everything the secretary requested. some good bills. We're moving forward in that direction. Specifically, the hand count bills are going to be very important. We've heard about voter confidence and voter participation. I think you'd find no better way to accomplish that than to allow people that option. HB 215 is what we call the gold standard, getting rid of the machines. I think that's a heavy lift. HB 217, which is a arbitrary or a randomly chosen precinct or precincts to be counted as a matter of course for canvassing, is a really easy thing to do. And we'd love to work with the clerks to show you process. We'd also love to work with you to show you specifically the expense that you can anticipate. We're well practiced around the state. And I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Matt, is there Mark Kep
Mr. Chairman, no, he is not available.
or Mr. Brubaker?
Neither is he.
Okay. All right. I would like to ask if any of the committee members turned a topic in, if we could hear from the committee members what your topic would be. Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submitted 2 topics, one on banning of electric machines, and then the other one is on, well, with the banning of the electronic voting machines, it was also with hand counting, of course, because you can't get rid of one without doing the other. And I would like to note that as I went through our packet of almost 35 pages, there seemed to be like almost half had to do with this same topic. The other topic that I submitted had to do with homeowners associations and how some of the homeowners associations, well, most of them, are violating, I would say, the freedom of speech for homeowners to say, hey, exercising their rights to support a political candidate. And I had received tons of emails in support of that, hey, could we look at that as an interim topic? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Locke. You didn't have one? Yes, Representative Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I did not submit a topic request with my own fingers, I did ask a couple of people to submit for me because we were a little crazy when that was all happening. And I'll echo what Representative Weber said, that House Bill 215 and House Bill 217, and as you look at the list, those are repeated many times. And so I really feel strongly that those two and that topic in general just needs probably a real good going over. And we ran out of time on that 215 in committee.
All right, thank you. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One topic that I would like to look a little deeper into, and I'm sure that probably Mr. Crossman might be here to talk about that, be the anti-SLAPP bill that we looked at during the term. So if we could look further into that.
All right, thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am late in putting this in, and I might even be in the wrong committee, but there's, I think the camel's nose come under the tent with gaming and gaming slot machines, especially in the city of Cheyenne and other municipalities. It's kind of let in through the horse racing law. And I would just like to see if we could allow the municipalities to tax these entities. I think they cause a lot of problems, peacekeeping and drug use. And I think that I'd like to allow the cities and municipalities to have a taxing authority on these entities.
Okay, Representative Johnson, did you turn in a formal?
I did not.
Okay, I will just refer that to probably TRW to look at as maybe if it's on their topic list. Or revenue. Do you have that in your committee? Okay. Sounds good. Any other ones, Representative Johnson? Okay. Yes, Representative Webb.
Well, I didn't turn them in, and at least I think both of them have been mentioned. Bottom, or page 20 and 21, they remove taxpayers. They've asked me to talk about those. And then also prohibiting electronic voting equipment. Sorry for the echo.
Vice Chairman Yin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The only one that was submitted under my sponsorship is the one that Ms. Carpio presented about voter registration, being able to figure out how we could do this securely online if possible, and then also be able to check if you are registered online without having to go through the clerk's office.
All right, and my topics were also listed and with the WEA and some of those funds that could go to enhancing EOR or the layout of our regulatory problems that we have throughout the state. So, all right, Vice Chairman Locke.
I'll go ahead and speak just very briefly to one I put in. It's just very general in terms of support to the Public Service Commission, and if there are things, enhancements or things like that we can make to support their process, I just have offered that up as an option as well.
Okay, any others? So the way that we'll go is you each received your form to put your top 6 choices on. We'll give you some time to do that. And then we'll turn those in, and the co-chair and I will look at those and do a submittal to Management Council for that. So if you can think about those, start filling those out throughout probably the first part of next week. And then we will, Chairman and I will meet to review those. So, all right. Any other things to come before the committee? Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On process, when we fill out these, the topic selection form, is it helpful to have like the House bills or Senate files listed on there as reference, or is that just?
If there was one listed in the topic that you're choosing, yes, absolutely, you can reference those as well.
Thank you.
All right. Nothing before the committee. We are adjourned.